And she is here. She is here to endorse Bernie Sanders for president.
Thank you. Thank you. I love you too. Thank you. Thank you. I was born and raised in the great state of Texas, as was my mother. And I am someone, there are millions of us, who have always looked to Jim Hightower as a model for how to do it right. When I was a little girl growing up in Houston, I used to put my hand in front of my heart, like millions of others. And I took a pledge of allegiance. It was to a flag and for the principles on which it stands: liberty and justice for all. Now, some people don't really understand the point of saying something like the Pledge of Allegiance anymore, but I know there was a point for me. The fact that when I was a little girl, all those years at Mark Twain Elementary School, the fact that as a little girl, I put my hand in front of my heart and I pledged allegiance to liberty and justice for all, turned me into a woman who gets really pissed when I see it not happening. And I'll tell you what else I learned in those public schools in Houston, Texas. I learned my history. I learned that there were other generations just like this one for whom it was time to take a stand. The abolitionists saw liberty and justice not happening, and they stood. And the women suffragettes saw liberty and justice not happening, and they stood. And the civil rights workers saw liberty and justice not happening. And it was the people in those cases, not the governments, not the elites, not the status quo. It was the people who rose up and the people who woke up and the people who stepped in. And now it is our turn. And of course, we're being told, oh, it can't happen. He can't beat Trump. Bernie can't beat Trump. It can't happen. Well, what do you think they told the abolitionists? They said to the abolitionists, abolishing slavery isn't possible. It can't happen. And they said to the women suffragettes, oh, it's not possible. It can't happen. And they said to the civil rights workers, it's not possible. It can't happen. Look at all the forces arrayed behind slavery, behind the suppression of women, behind institutionalized white supremacy and segregation. And did the abolitionists and the women suffragettes and the civil rights workers say, oh, okay? Hell no. I'll tell you what they said. It's possible. It can happen because we're going to make it happen. I'll tell you what's already happened to those who say it cannot happen. You just tell them this. It already happened. He won Iowa. It already happened. He won New Hampshire. It already happened. He won Nevada. And by doing all those things, Bernie Sanders has taken a stand. And Bernie Sanders has been taking a stand for a very long time. He has been consistent. He has been convicted. He has been committed. And now it's time. I'm here and you're here because it's time for us to take a stand with Bernie. It's our turn now. Just as it was the abolitionists' turn and just as it was the suffragettes' turn, just as it was the civil rights workers' turn, just as it is the turn of those who stand at Standing Rock, just as it is the turn of all those who are standing today. Today, we're not saying to forces of slavery, we're not saying to forces of suppression of women, we're not saying to forces of segregation, but we are saying to the forces, whatever those corporate aristocratic forces are, that would mitigate against liberty and justice for all, whether it is the prison industrial complex, whether it is the military industrial complex, whether it is the pharmaceutical complex, and whether it is the campaign media industrial complex. We are here, and we are infused with the same spirit that infused our ancestors, and we're here to stand up in honor of our ancestors and in deep devotion to generations who will come after us. We now look back at the abolitionists, and we look back at the segregationists, we look back at the civil rights workers, and we look back at the abolitionists, and we go, wow, they did it. They had the fierceness, they had the grit, they had the courage, they had the grace. They stood up for what America can be. And let one day generations look back at us and let us know that we did what those before us have done. And we said in our time to the forces who would say it can't be done, this liberty and justice stuff, it's a dream. It's just something you talk about. But when it gets in the way of the financial interests of a few, you can't have that. And we have been trained in America over the last few decades to expect too little, to say pretty please about things that should be the right of every American. Today, we're tired of saying pretty please. We're going to stand up. We're going to show up because we woke up, and we're going to say with grace, we're going to say with style, we're going to say to all those who say liberty and justice cannot be done, sure hell can be, because we're here and we're with Bernie. Thank you very, very much.
And let me thank Marianne Williamson. And let me thank Greg Kazar for his great words. And let me pick up on what Marianne and Greg said. And what they said is that the limitations of our imagination is the crisis that we face today. Yes, Wall Street is powerful. The drug companies are powerful. The insurance companies are powerful. The military-industrial complex is powerful. But the major problem we face are the limitations of our imagination and what we believe as a nation we can become. This is the wealthiest nation in the history of the world. We should not have 500,000 people sleeping out on the streets of America tonight. This is the wealthiest country in the history of the world. Half of our people should not be working paycheck to paycheck. In America, we should not have a nation with more income and wealth inequality than almost any other country on earth. Today, we stand firm and we say it is not acceptable that 3 people own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. In Texas, in Vermont, and all across this country, we got millions of people working 2 or 3 jobs to put food on the table. We got moms who cannot afford child care. We got kids who go to bed hungry. This is America. We will provide a good quality life for all of our people. This is the most consequential election in the modern history of our country. And together, we're not only going to win here in Texas on Super Tuesday, we're going to beat Trump in November. We're going to beat Trump. We are going to beat Trump because the American people are sick and tired of a president who lies all of the time. They are sick and tired of a corrupt administration. They are sick and tired of a president who apparently has never read the Constitution of the United States. They're sick and tired of a president who can't get along with anybody, even the people he appoints to his administration. And the American people, no matter what your political view may be, understand we cannot have a president who is a racist, who is a sexist, who is a homophobe, who is a xenophobe, who is a religious bigot. And those are some of his better qualities. What the American people know, that we need a president who brings us together, not divides us up. Now, I've been hearing, the establishment is getting a little bit nervous about our campaign. And you know what? When they see, if the cameras turn on this crowd, and our friends in Wall Street and the drug companies see this kind of crowd, you're going to really get them nervous. Because their nightmare, and that's what Greg was talking about, and that's what Marianne and others were talking about, their nightmare is when they see, not only in Austin, but all over this country, millions of people standing up for decent wages, standing up for quality education, understanding that health care is a human right, not a privilege, understanding that we must combat climate change and take on the fossil fuel industry. That is the establishment's nightmare, that people are standing up for justice. That is what this campaign is about, and that's why we're going to beat Trump. Well, the establishment says we can't beat Trump. Well, to my friends in the establishment, take a look at the polls today. We beat Trump nationally. We beat Trump in Michigan. We beat Trump in Wisconsin. We beat Trump in Pennsylvania. And you know what? We're going to beat him here in Texas. The pundits tell us the pundits tell us that Texas is a conservative state. I don't believe that for a minute. And I believe that if the working people of Texas, black and white and Latino, Native American, Asian American, stand up and come out to vote, you're going to make this one of the most progressive states in America. The reason that we are going to beat Trump is because we have the strongest grassroots movement of any campaign in modern American history. We don't go to billionaires' homes to raise campaign funds. We don't have a super PAC. In our campaign, and everybody here should be proud of this because we're in this together. In our campaign, we have received more campaign contributions from more people than any candidate in the history of the United States. And the average contribution is $18.50. How's that? the major profession that supports us, not Wall Street speculators, not the CEOs of the drug companies. The major profession that supports us are teachers. And we get enormous numbers of contributions from workers at Walmart, from workers at Amazon, people who are kicking in $10 or $20 a piece. And I appreciate that enormously. So let us be blunt. This is a campaign of the working class of America, by the working class of America, and for the working class of America. And as a son of the American working class, I could not be prouder. And as the son of an immigrant, I could not be prouder to be here with you today. We are not going to let Trump and his friends demonize immigrants in this country. Trump thinks that he's going to win re-election by dividing us up. We got bad news for him. We're going to win by bringing our people together. And we're going to win because we have an agenda that says to the corporate elite, that says to the 1%, that this country belongs to all of us, not a handful of billionaires. I am tired of seeing workers in Texas and all over this country work for starvation wages. You can't raise a family on $10 an hour or $12 an hour. And that is why we're going to raise that federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. It's why we are going to make sure that women receive equal pay for equal work. It is why we are going to make it easier for workers to join unions. It is why we're going to create millions of good-paying union jobs, rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure. And when we talk about infrastructure, I'm talking about affordable and low-income housing as well. Not only is it a disgrace that 500,000 people tonight will be living out on the streets, it is a disgrace that 18 million families are spending half of their income to put a roof over their heads. We're going to put people to work building 10 million units of affordable and low-income housing.